In this video, I will clear confusion about concept. This concept has been confusing to so many. Concept of tensor. Before studying tensor calculus and anything all that, you should be clear about your concepts regarding tensor. So what is a tensor? First of all, tensor comes from mathematics. Tensor has its origin in mathematics. Just like vectors, calculus and all that. It is not having its origin in physics like energy, mass. These are all physical quantities having its origin in physics. So we should really think of a tensor in a mathematical way more than in a physical way. Tensor is nothing. It is just combination of something, some numbers in a matrix, and when you input something in the matrix, multiply something from the matrix, you get another column matrix, row matrix, whatever you call. So it is just like an operator where you throw something in the tensor and you get something out of it. So what is stress tensor? Stress tensor is a tensor. If you throw area of an element into the stress tensor, it will give force on that area. So in this video we will focus only on stress tensor. In my future videos I will cover stress energy tensor, electromagnetic field tensor and all that, but right now only stress tensor. So the task at hand is I want to create a mathematical object that will provide me a kind of solution such that I throw an area into that mathematical object or operator and it should provide me force on that area. Like I am applying force on this lock, right? And in any kind of force here I'm trying to break it. It will not break by any way, but yeah. So if I'm making a force, a tensor should do like if I input this area on the stress energy tensor, it will provide me force. If I multiply area vector and stress tensor, both are matrices, so it will give me force. That's the work of a tensor. You input something, you get output something. It is just like a mathematical operator like sine theta. You input an angle, you get a value. You input area vector, you get a force vector. Thus that. That is stress. That is the work of stress tensor. So how should I create something like this? This is a big question. How should anyone come up with task like this? Like I want to create an operator so that I will throw my area into this and I will catch force out of it. That is a difficult task. So what mathematicians did, they created a matrix. Tensor is a matrix. So in matrix, what they started all permutation combination. For like, I will first calculate on this area is a vector, right? It has three directions, x, y, z. For a unit area in x direction, how much force is there? For unit area in x direction, how much force is there? It will be like 3, 4, 6. 3 in x, 4 in y, 6 in z. So for unit area there are force components for unit area in x direction, similar to in this z direction, similar to in y direction. So the thing is, it will be 9 numbers. For each direction there will be 3 numbers. And that numbers will tell for that direction what are the magnitude of forces in that regarding that direction. So for every direction 3, so 9. So stress tensor is of 9. 9 elements are in the stress tensor. So if you input a normal random area vector, it will give you a force still, because remember I told you we are making stress tensor from unit area vectors in x, y and z direction. So any area vector is a combination of what? These unit vectors. So at the end your force will be just weighted sum of this, right? You can write any area vector in form of its unit vectors, unit area vectors. And for unit area vectors, I calculated the force, like for unit area in x direction, according to this force condition, what is the stress in x, y and z direction, and I throw that into tensor. It is present in tensor. So x, y, x, z, x, that is that represents that only. For like sigma x, for x direction in area, how much force there is in x direction, sigma x, y. For x direction in area, how much force is in y direction. For x, z. For x direction in area, how much force in z direction. Unit area. So if you enter a normal random area vector, it will give you a force vector or stress vector. Are you getting the point? If you slice it, the surface, if I slice the log and I want to find inside the element, I will also get it, because it has some vector and it is written in terms of unit vector. So I will just input my area vector in terms which is written in unit vector. I will get force. That's the beauty of tensor. It is operator which maps two quantities. If it is a rank 2 tensor, it maps two quantities, area and force. Tensor bridges them. That's why study of tensor is so important. And this tensor can change throughout the space, throughout the time. So study of these tensors is called tensor calculus. And there are many kinds of tensor: electromagnetic field tensor, stress energy tensor. I will talk them in detail in my future videos. So if you like this video and you want this kind of explanation, please subscribe.